Yo, what up? HD3 here, and I am sick. Sick nasty? No, real sick. Sorry, really sick. So, like, if I sound angry or, you know, like I'm dying, it's because I am. This video, I want to talk to you guys about leaders in Gwent and how I perceive their value to see if I can help you understand how to better perceive their value. Leaders are one of the most important components of deck building in Gwent. It seems pretty straightforward, but a lot of players just pick leaders that they see around often and don't really know why they're picking them or how to interpret their value. And Crack on Crate gives us a pretty good baseline leader so we can kind of model and see what it is we should be expecting out of a leader. So Crack on Crate right now is not one of the most popular leaders. At the time of this video, I think we're in patches 0.8.33, and Crack on Crate spawns two on Crate Warriors, which are 7 strength units that come into play and damage themselves for 2 strength. So he puts 10 strength onto the battlefield from use. That is presuming there's no frost on the front line and anything else that would otherwise affect them coming into play, like a Savage Bear or Fireball traps. But his value, his contribution is 2 5 strength units because that's how they come onto the battlefield. You have some upward potential if you use a Diamond Bomb. They can become stronger. They can go back to 7 strength. They're 2 units, so they can take row buffs better than 1 unit can. So if you compare Crack on Crate to Eridan, there's some upsides to Crack, there's some upsides to Eridan. This is what I would perceive as just around silver value. Bronze value usually equals around 8. A total contribution of 8 strength, whether it is from direct strength from your unit, potential strength from your unit, or strength taking away from an opposing unit. This is a flat 10 with upside, so it's close to silver value. And as I mentioned, Eridan is comparable to Crack on Crate. Of course, he plays himself onto the battlefield, which is a 10 strength unit, which is immune to frost. So he is silver value. We can compare Eridan directly to a card like Judah on Damoon, who is a 10 strength silver unit. Now, Judah is not immune to frost, so Eridan has what I consider silver plus value. And a lot of the leaders fall into this category of silver plus value, and Dagon is another great example of it. We have Aeromancy, which is a silver card. It allows you to summon Frost, Fog, or Rain. But then Dagon can also summon First Light, which is Clear Skies or Rally. So this is better than silver, but it's not really gold. He's not Ragnaroking you. Same with the hero like Bruver Hoog, who pulls a silver card from your deck. The act of pulling a silver card is obviously you're getting silver value from that card, but you're also pulling it directly from your deck. You don't need to hold it in hand. You're thinning your deck. This is silver plus value. And silver plus is what I'd say is the minimum playable right now. Now, there are some leaders that have hidden value or latent value, like Full Test, who, if you look into it plainly, he can create a bronze unit. But since he's copying the exact copy of the bronze unit, that value can scale very well, as we see in the current meta with PFI, Poor Infantry. For those of you that don't know, PFI can take value and then therefore pass it on to Full Test. So there's some leaders that are going to be affected by the way other actions are taking shape on the battlefield to determine how much they're going to get. So leaders can also have a variance of value. At the very worst, Full Test gives you bronze value. At the very best, you're getting silver plus, possibly even gold in the case of the Poor Infantry deck, because it's hard to quantify the value you get from having 3 to 4 copies of a 11 to 15 strength unit that goes into your graveyard and can just pop back out as a double. So Full Test is one of the leaders that exemplifies variance in value depending on circumstances. And variance is not always good unless you can execute with a degree of reliability, which is what makes poor infantry pretty strong right now, because the variance isn't taking too big of a toll. You can usually get there where you're getting a decent amount of value. Now, some of you may be thinking that Gels could fall into this category of a leader that has variance in his value. So maybe at his top end, he has a lot of value, and if you're able to apply his buff to an inordinate amount of troops, then it's worthwhile, and he exceeds, silver value by a decent margin. But that's not really the case for him, because when you take his actual skill and compare it to units that are in the game, like we're talking about taking units that have to have a minimum of one strength. To exist, you have to have at least one strength. And nothing. There are things that have one strength for monsters, but we're going to assume the baseline for units, including muster and even breedables, is going to be around 2 strength average. So Gales is giving everything 4 additional strength. Well, here's the Hawker Healer. This adds 3 strength to everything on a row. But Hawker Healer doesn't make the row uniform strength and therefore targetable by everything. Hawker Healer also is replayable by commandos which exist within its faction. It has much more value than Gales. So Gales' value, after we look at it in a relative context, is exceedingly low. And in the perfect situations, you may be able to eke out a victory through the use of it. But if we even look at realistic situations, like how often is Gales' value going to exceed that of a Thunderbolt potion? If your opponent's running no removal, which is possible in the current state of things, but it also requires everyone to be on the same row, so Geralt R gets value, Geralt Igni gets value. So Gales has really poor relative value, which is another thing we take into consideration. We want to be able to compare the leader's abilities to other units within the game. As we did with Eridan, we could see what a silver looked like, a silver 10 looks like, and we could see that Eridan exceeds a normal silver 10 by being immune to weather. Gales, compared to some bronze cards, just doesn't make the cut. Which is not to say you can't find a context where he may be able to win. It's just not going to be as reliable, it's not going to be as consistent, it's not going to be as reasonable in comparison to some of these leaders that have a really high ceiling in terms of the value they offer. So that brings us to the big 2. And the first one is Big Daddy Radovid, aka Dadavid. And his ability, removing 8 strength, is almost on par with gold value. And the reason why is because the 8 strength can be removed from gold units. And we have cards in the game that we can compare to and see the relative value. We look at a Yorvith and we see that Yorvith is valued at 6 base strength, with 6 more being in removal. And we know as experienced player that value actually scales greatly in the context of removal when it comes to gold removal or whatever. It's the reason why a Northern Realms Ballista is not nearly as good as a Scoia'tael Doplantha Archer. Being able to remove 2 strength will not constitute actual removal of a unit very often. And removing a unit, in many cases, has plus value. The Doplantha Archer at 5 strength can very often take a unit off of the battlefield. And even though if you total up their entire value, Doplantha Archer is 2 plus 5. The Ballista we looked at was 5 plus 2. They equal 7. But that's not accurate because the amount that the Doplantha Archer could deny from a unit by removing it off of the battlefield derives value from that removal step, whereas just damaging a unit with a Ballista does not get you as much. So now when we look at Radovid with 8 removal from a gold unit, and we compare that to Yorvith, who is a ton better than Vernon Roach, who is a ton better than Triss Marigold, we can see that this is really close to being normal gold value, which is fantastic for Radovid. It doesn't always guarantee that it's going to use the 8 strength from a gold unit. If he's removing 8 strength from Turn 3 Skellige Longship, which is at 9 strength, he's getting bronze plus value because it's an Alzur's Thunder with 1 extra strength on it. But if he's removing 8 strength from Siri, if he's taking a card like a Glyce off the board so she can't be replayed, if he's taking any replay target really from Scoia'tael, or any unit that tries to derive value from being in play longer, such as the Singrim, then he's getting really good gold value. So this is where the variance comes into play and favors a leader like Radovid who has the potential to hit gold. Whereas Eridan and Ancrate and even Harold the Cripple are somewhere below gold value on a regular basis. And then there's the Queen, Ithne, who, once again, another leader that has great variance, but her variance isn't really the same as full test because her variance comes in the form of utility. It gives you an insane amount of options, and it allows you to answer a situation as play dictates it. And her value is actually capped out at gold, like 100% full gold. If you play Burna Bran into Ithne, Ithne can play Burna Bran back to you and is getting a full gold value. So Ithne is a 5th gold card in some cases. If you're playing monsters and you know monsters don't have great opportunities to get card advantage, and you use your Avalok to try and level the playing field, if Avalok gets played back at you, and that value is huge, and it's seemingly effortless, and monsters can't do anything to replay Avalok unless they invest another gold card in the form of Renew and send it back again in the next round, but that could have devastating consequences as well. Ithne also breaks the limitation of disloyal cards in the deck because she can replay your disloyals back at you, and it puts you in a tough position where card advantage is a very tough thing to gain against Scoia'tael, a faction that already has the ability to choose to go first or second in one round, which means that in the majority of games played by players that are not of outstanding circumstances, they're going to be able to play second in 2 out of the 3 rounds at the very least. And since RNG dictates the first round, they could be playing second in each round. So card advantage becomes a major issue as they're able to take advantage and integrate many more reactive cards like the Doplanta Archer we've seen. And now that they have proactive cards like the Firebolt Trap and the Sappers, their versatility is exceedingly great. So Ithne, added with the factional ability, added with her ability to derive huge amounts of value, gold value, silver value, situational value, is just one of the greatest leaders in the game. And there's a definitive difference between her and some of the other leaders. Like, Ithne's value exceeds that of Crack-On Crate. There's no question. Like, for Crack-On Crate to get better value than Ithne, you have to play both of his units on the board. They have to get dime bombed, and then they have to get like Commander's Horned, and I don't even know what has to happen after that. It's just an absurd sequence of events that can push them over the top, and then you could have a debate. But this is why you're seeing leaders like Ithne and Radovid so often, is because they actually are just stronger right now. And we'll see moving forward in the game if there's a more reasonable baseline, if they reinterpret some of these. I actually half expected cards like Burna Bran and Avalok to get the operator / Johnny treatment where they are relentless. They can't be taken off the battlefield, because it seems preposterous that you can have one of your most important cards that readily turned against you. And I do understand that there's some plays like Northern Realms, breaking and then replaying like an extensive sequence that seems like, oh my god, I did a great job, I should get rewarded for this. But at the same time, it's just too much, and it creates this imbalance for the leaders. And it doesn't mean that Ithne and Radovid are going to win most of their games, but it does mean you're getting the most bang for your buck when you play those leaders, because their upside is that much greater than what some of the leaders that present a flat base value can offer to you. Okay, so I hope this video helped you to be able to understand how to interpret value in terms of leaders, and maybe now, instead of just thinking that people are playing Radovid because in real life they're just jerks that push over old women and laugh at them and stuff in shopping malls and whatever, they're actually playing it because it actually represents better opportunities than some of the other leaders do. And the other leaders are not necessarily horrible, but they need to have certain circumstances to be met to achieve greater value than Radovid and Itni do. And that does bear a lot of meaning, and especially as the meta evolves, we'll see how that changes and how the other leaders are brought to kind of level out that gap between leaders with a lot of upside. I brought you here to the screen so you can see Vernon Roach. He is my first premium card, and I'm pretty freaking hype about it. I hope you enjoyed this video today. I'm HG3 from Gwent City. Be sure to subscribe, like, or dislike if you didn't like it, and leave a comment if you have any ideas you want to contribute to the conversation. Also, if you guys have any kind of theory crafting discussion that you want to talk about moving forward, make sure to suggest it or ask about it either in the comments of the video, or you can hit me up on Twitter, which will be in the description of the video. I want to give a big shout out to my compadre, Mante and Gwent Daily for providing fantastic content and a reliable medium to find all the Gwent content on a regular basis. Hopefully the next time you hear from me, I do not sound like I am dying. If you don't hear from me again, I'm dead. Have a good one. Enjoy your holidays, guys. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. We're going to continue to have videos out, and it's going to be awesome.